you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, let's start off today by saying good morning. Good morning to all and welcome. Welcome to the September the 13th edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and I am so grateful to have this opportunity to share with you and to speak with Mr. Fuller as you will today. So thank you for listening. Thank you for lining up, calling in, and getting ready to hear another fantastic program. Before we get started or into the program, Mr. Fuller's interview on the Carl Nelson Show is up on our website and can be heard in its entirety. So if you missed it and you want more Fuller, you can get it by going to producejustice.com, and you can get that. And while you are there, if you would like to purchase books or get books or check on the latest information or even other podcasts, as people have informed me that they do go back and hear different ones, all of that is available for you at your discretion, so do that. And speaking about discretions, if you would like to be a part of today's show, you can do that by simply doing this. Dialing this number, which is 516-453-9921. And you can press the number 1 button, and you will get in line with a question. And if you would like to have a VGQ, you may also do that. But we would ask, please, ma'am, please, sir, if you would be brief on that, because we only have basically a 2-hour window, so we cannot get all the questions in. But as you well know, Mr. Fuller does take his time using logic, which is cause and effect, to answer your questions so that we get understanding. Why? Because we want to try to eliminate confusion, and you'll hear that word a lot during this 2-hour broadcast. You can also contact the show by going to my Gmail address, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Now, please, ma'am, please, sir. Yeah, you can ask me, a question, and it will not necessarily be read today, but at a point in time it will be read. So if you elect to put the word urgent on it, it's not going to get any more priority than those that are already there. So in other words, don't do that. Please don't do that. I'll get to it when it comes up. Simple as that. And you can also do this. You can join the chat room, and all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. Then you want to click on where it says programs, and you will get the Produce Justice Show. Click on that, and then a box will come up, and then a chat room will be available for you, as B. Sam 721 has done. Thank you, sir, for doing that. But they have interesting formats of questions there and answers. They are codified, so be codified. And occasionally I will pick up something from the code room or rather from the chat room, and then put it up on the air. Please do not use the chat room to ask your question to Mr. Fuller. Don't do that. That's what the number is for you to do that. Please don't do that. Okay. Even if we are good chat buddies, please don't do that. Okay, let me see. Oh, yes, and let's do this. Okay. How about this? I think that is all. Oh, yes, all the books are in, so that's good. And now, the moment of truth. Let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. And before I ask him this question, let me say this because I did temporarily misremembered this, thinking about that guy in Congress. For first-time callers, when you call that number, give the call screener your name, yes, and tell the call screener that you are a new caller, and they will alert me, and then you can, your question will be asked. In other words, you can go to basically almost at the head of the line or next in line, and you will be allowed to ask your question, so you won't be on hold forever, so to speak. Okay, you can do that. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, let me present to some and announce to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and as customary, I will ask, Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay, it's time for thoughts and expressions from the mind of Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind to start out today's program?
I was thinking about a question that someone asked, if I recall correctly, last week. And they said, what do you do about being alone? And so I thought about that and thought about that. And I thought about how do I really feel when I'm feeling like I'm alone?
Yes, sir.
And what does feeling like you're alone mean? What does that actually mean? It might be a number of questions that can grow out of that one question. What do you mean when you're alone? When are you alone? And when are you not alone? And what is the difference between being alone and being not alone? And what is the significance of it? And are there different ways of being alone? Or is this just one way? A lot of questions can grow out of that. That one word, alone. And you get lonely. Sometimes people say, well, I'm just lonely. I'm lonely. Okay, well, all problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers. According to what? According to logic. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So if being alone is a problem, then you analyze the problem by doing what? Asking questions about being alone. What does that actually mean? When are you not alone? And what is the value of not being alone, depending on where you are and what you're doing? And what do you get out of being alone, and what is it you don't get when you are alone? What is it that you need when you say, I'm lonely? I don't know. I'm just going out of my mind. I feel so alone. Okay, what does that really mean? Well, I want to be around somebody. I want to talk to people. I want people to talk to me. What people? Talking to you about what? See, these are questions. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So you can just sit down and spend an hour or two, or maybe a day or two, or maybe 2 or 3 months, just asking every question you can possibly ask of yourself, because that's a compensatory way, of what are you actually thinking that makes you feel alone. That's a feeling. Like boredom, that's a feeling. Like pain, that's a feeling. So when you feel alone, what is it that you think you have to do in order not to, quote, unquote, feel alone? That's a question. And you can think about maybe
when is the last time that I didn't feel alone? And what was I doing? And if there were other people involved in me being not alone, who were those people? And what were they doing that kept me from feeling alone? These people, just stop and think about the last time you did not feel alone. You felt like you definitely weren't alone. You might have been a whole lot of other things, but you didn't feel like you were lonely. What were you doing, actually? Try to pinpoint that. Well, that's what I was thinking about since the person asked the question last week. I started asking myself, when is the last time I really didn't feel alone? And what was I doing? And were there other people involved in me not feeling alone? And what were those people doing? Or that person, might have been just one person, that kept me from feeling alone. Or it might have been a whole room full of people, or a whole stadium full of people. Sometimes people might say, well, the last time I didn't feel alone, I was at a ballpark. And everybody was on their feet at what they were looking at. And I felt like I was a part of it all. And I did not feel alone, because I can't stand feeling alone. Well, then another question comes up. Why is it that you did not feel alone in that ballpark? Did you know the person to the left of you? Did you know their names? Do you know anything about where they worked? And do you know anything about when they felt alone and when they didn't? Well, no. And maybe yes. I don't know. Well, think about it. Because all you have to do is just think about it, because it's all about you being alone. So you might come up with answers, because when you ask questions, the laws of the universe say, when you ask a question, even of yourself, the answer to the question starts coming toward you. Now, that's based on what? Theory? Yes. That's a theory that I have based on what I call logic. Because inventors ask questions all the time, people who invent things. The person who invented the cell phone, they were probably alone when they were thinking about it. They probably didn't have anybody around coaching them on, hey, you need to be inventing a cell phone. Well, what's a cell phone? No, you thought of it. Nobody else was around you. Most inventors are alone most of the time. But they ask questions. That's how they invent things, about all the things that they are in contact around them. And they ask questions mostly about things. That's how they invent things. And they are alone when they do it. A lot of people say that they're geniuses. And depending on what you use that as what definition you put on that, that means you generate something. You come up with something that nobody else came up with. That's why a lot of people who are spiritual, they say, go off somewhere into the woods or go to a mountaintop. You hear that mountaintop quite a bit, where they can be what? Alone. Get all the clutter out of your mind and go right to the things that are real important. So maybe being alone serves a constructive purpose rather than be around a lot of people like in a stadium and everybody's jumping up and down shouting and you don't feel alone because you feel like, hey, these are all people who, they're just like me and I'm just like them. and they're all my family. And they're jumping up and down and knocking over, beer cans and dropping popcorn on the seats because they're excited. And they're excited because they're not alone. Thousands of people are in here, and I'm with them, and they're with me. And I don't feel alone because being lonely is painful. I don't want to feel pain. But then sometimes, being alone, you might be alleviating a whole lot of pain and getting rid of a whole lot of pain for a whole lot of other people because you spend a lot of time being alone and doing some thinking about things that you never thought about when you weren't alone because everybody was talking at you. That's just something I was thinking about since I was asked.
All righty. Alone. Well, let's do this. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on Blog Talk Radio. And we're happy to have you in. Thank you, Darnell, for putting your name in. And Toussaint, thank you for putting your name in also. Those are people who are on hold. John, I got you. Monica, Buffalo, got you also. If you would like to be a part of today's programming, please call this number, 516-453-9921. Trust me, on this one you will not be alone when you call that number. Don't forget to give the call screener your name so that I can properly identify you without butchering your name, although I am trying to get better on that. Okay, before I go to the phone line, let me do this. This comes from Treadway. Now, Mr. Fuller, these are going to be kind of bunched up so you can enter into your response any way you want to, but I have to read it this way, or I'm going to read it this way. It says this: without specific details, could Neely Fuller enlighten us on how his code has worked for his immediate family? Does he engage in annual family reunions? I know all of my questions might not be answered this week, but just these questions are the ones that I would like to be answered over time. Why does Neely Fuller always have to speak about black-on-black crimes? He gives a lot of time and energy toward talking about how stupid black people are. Does he realize that he is not promoting hope for black community or black community or solutions that way? We want to hear more solutions and less about we're not capable. We want you, Mr. Fuller, to help us expose the senator's schemes of white supremacy so that they are not negatively effective anymore. I know that's why you wrote the book, but for some reason, it seems like we're going in circles. Mr. Fuller?
Well, it seems like we're going in circles because we are. And going in a circle means you keep doing the same thing and thinking the same way. I have asked people, compensatory counter-racist codification calls for you to think in a way that you haven't thought before. And that's not what most people call traditionally a criticism. That's an observation. An observation of what? The truth. A lot of people got different ideas about progress. And this is understandable. You can have different ideas about a lot of things. But what is progress, according to logic? Progress comes from admitting ignorance. I do that all the time and seeking to do it. I'm not trying to look for a way not to look ignorant, except I'm looking for a way not to look ignorant by not being ignorant. And how do you not be ignorant, meaning not knowing what you should know? You admit to yourself that you don't know what you should know. That's what people do when they enter, like they say, this is the fall season, and people are going off to what they call another year of schooling, going off to a college or elementary school. Here in September of 2022, in many parts of the world, people are saying, I'm going to school. Well, what are you going to school for? Well, I'm ignorant. I go to school in order to learn things so I will not be ignorant, meaning I'm trying to learn things that I don't know that will help me to solve problems that I already have and or will have. Otherwise, why go to a place called a quote unquote school? It's a logical question. Mm-hmm. According to compensatory logic, it's not about Neely Fuller. This is universal. Now, where is school? Wherever you can learn something that you need to know. Some people say, well, you go in that building here, or I go across the state line and I go to a particular city, and there's a place called a school there, and I've heard that you can learn a whole lot about what I want to know at that particular place, so that's where I'm going. Mm-hmm. That's a medical school. So I want to go to a medical school because I want to know more about medicine than I already know. And you might say, well, how much do you know about medicine? Well, other than taking an aspirin, that's just about it. Okay? So you're going to that particular place where you can learn more than just taking an aspirin. Is that my understanding? Yeah, that's the understanding. So it's really simple, and it's not about Fuller. Nothing that I'm saying is about Neely Fuller. Who is Neely Fuller? He's not nobody to tell nobody nothing. That's why I say I just make suggestions, even to myself, and then I pass them on to somebody else if I think they'll work. That's all. And I try to learn more about how to solve problems. And the main problem I set for myself was solving a race problem. And the first thing you have to do when you're going to solve any problem is be willing to admit the truth. First of all, to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because people have a tendency to tell themselves a lot of things that are not true. Because of what? Because we want to temporarily feel good. That's what drugs do. I understand. I never took any cocaine or anything like that, but that's just my choice. Because I found out that something like cocaine will make you feel good, whatever that means, whatever kind of good feeling you get. So you need to try it sometime, Fuller, and see. But I've heard that after you feel good, you start feeling bad again. So I don't want to feel good in order to ultimately feel bad and then keep feeling bad about the good feeling that I get when I ain't getting the good feeling that I was getting, and feeling bad because I wasn't getting it from some artificial substance that wouldn't keep me feeling good, and it's difficult to get and messes up a whole lot of other things, because a part of the code says avoid solving problems by making other problems. So I understood from what people were telling me and what I reading in the paper and whatnot, yeah, you can solve a problem with cocaine, but you'll make other problems in the process. And I say, well, I don't need, to solve a problem. And then I had one problem, now I got 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That does not mathematically compute. I don't want to add to my problems. I want to permanently eliminate every problem that I got. I don't want no problems. All right? That ain't no trade-off at all.
Yes,
logically speaking.
I think constructive action.
So in answer to that question, I went kind of a long way around.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
But really, it's, like I said, Neely Fuller is not in position to criticize anything. I just ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask questions, the nature of the universe is answers start coming toward you.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off saying inventors understand that. That's why they invent things that nobody else does.
Yes, sir.
When you ask questions, the more questions you ask, there's something about the way the universe is.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever that question is coming from, it's almost like magic, but it's not magic. It's just logic. Wherever that question is coming from, the answer to the questions start gravitating towards where it's coming from. If that question is coming from you, the answer starts coming somewhere from outer space or wherever you want to call it. But that answer to that question starts coming toward you. And all you got to do is just stick it out. Because if you keep asking that question, something is going to give you the answer. Every inventor knows that.
Yes, sir. I think that, and I could be corrected on this, but I think one of our chat room people, constructive actions items, indicated once that, in fact, a few weeks ago, I believe it was, you don't solve a problem by creating another problem.
Solve problems without making any.
I think that was it. Yeah.
That's the compensatory code. Solve problems without making any.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Solve problems without making. Thank you, constructive action item. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take a little break so we can go straight through. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on Blog Talk Radio, and we thank you for doing that. To be a part of today's show, just dial this number, 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or a quick VGQ so that Mr. Fuller can answer that, and we can move on from there. If you are a first-time caller, make sure that you give a call screen of your name so that I can get it, and we have created a way that your question will be heard, so don't be scared to do that. All right. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY @gmail.com. Your question may not be read today, but I will indicate that I got it, and that I will also give you a date and time when your question is read, so you can play it, so it can be played back for you to hear. And of course, you can also go to the chat room and get in there. Yes, all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to go under programs, hit the Produce Justice show, and then when you hit that, the icon to get in the chat room will become available to you. Hit that bad boy, and you are in there. Be codified, because them brothers and sisters in there, they be really tough, okay? All righty. Okay, let's move on. Houston. Do we have a problem this morning, John? Okay, let me hear it. Go ahead, John.
Grand Risings, gentlemen, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Houston, we have a problem, because according to the elder, I am alone. You know, my brother from another mother, I think, I would hope, both of you gentlemen are familiar with the Washington Nation in some degree, and would ask you a question, well, which could be, I guess, considered a VGQ. If it's not George Washington, but more accurately George Washita, are we suffering because American Aborigines, African Moors, and black Europeans, which are all dark complexion individuals, not what we've been led to believe today is the whitewashing and pale-skinned Caucasian, if they were the actual progenitors, the creators of the system of white supremacy, what would that actually do going forward? And I'm going to circle back one more time when I can with the elder, possibly not today, and why I keep raising him to please give us some insight in his Muskogee past as a child, or give us some insight to what may be the tribal, wisdom that was passed down by his elders. And if I could hold my good brother,
you got
have a wonderful morning.
Yes, sir. You're on hold. Okay, thank you. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I never put all of that in boxes, in separate boxes. Everything that I ever experienced, every bus that I ever got on, I picked up things. I learned things. Some things I don't remember that I learned, and and other things I do remember. It's just every experience. People have experiences, and I don't put them in a Muskogee box or elderly box. It's just certain things I remember because I was there and things happened wherever it was. And I was influenced by some things more than others, just like everybody. That's the conclusion I came to. I mean, how many experiences has a person had? Say, a person who is 50 years old. I'm way over 50. But a person, by the time they're 50 years old, has had experiences. I mean, their lunch dropped out of their lunch box, so they didn't have lunch that day. And they remember that one of their favorite lunches that their mother had time to make was made on that particular day. Your favorite cookie, your favorite sandwich, everything was in there. Not the traditional apple, but this time there was a slice of pie, okay? So you were glad of that, homemade pie. And she had it in one of those insulated type lunch kits that you never had before. So when lunchtime came at school that day, it stands out in your mind. That new little lunch bag that she got that was greatly insulated with materials that kept it hot. So you had hot pie. And that was something you never had by lunchtime before. But you remember it. It really stands out in your mind. And maybe years later, long after your mother is gone in her grave and whatnot, you think about that slice of peach pie that was nice and hot at lunchtime, and you sat there and ate it and was licking your fingers. And the other kids was laughing because you were doing it. But you remember that. And you might say, well, that ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, your outstanding experiences. I mean, what your elders told you about the great things, going back to Africa or the Indian tribes in Oklahoma. I don't remember much of anything that I was told that I should have remembered because I just didn't count it as important while it was happening. But I tried to recall it, and I never could. Because you never can remember what you don't remember, all right?
Okay.
So in answer to that question, and why don't I talk about these things, my experiences, you don't need to have Neely Fuller's experiences or know what they are, because Neely Fuller doesn't know them. I don't know my experiences. Most of them I don't know. Most of the things that I experienced. Sometimes people will say, remember when you did such when you were 14 years old, and because I remember, I said, I don't remember nothing like that. What are you talking about? Because I just don't remember it. But somebody else did. Something that I did or something that I said, and people remember exactly. And maybe other people chime in, said, yeah, I remember when you did that, Bo. I remember when you said that. And everybody thought it was funny. But I don't remember anything at all.
Okay.
See, so it doesn't come down so much to people's experiences as individuals. That's why I'm saying don't center on the individual. Center on logic. Logic will carry you right through anything. Whatever creates the universe, put something in it called logic. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. What will produce a certain effect that is harmful, and what will produce a certain effect that is beneficial, that produces a constructive result. Think of those two words. All you want out of your existence is constructive results. And whatever leads to that, that's the ship that you board. That's the train you get on. And don't turn loose to it. Constructive results. Will it produce a constructive result? Yes or no?
Yes or no. All right. All right, John from Houston. By the way, John, chew on this one since you mentioned that word progenitors and forefathers. That brought to mind something that the Reverend Jeremiah Wright said. By logic, cause and effect, and evidence of what they did, I think I stopped using that term forefathers. I like what he said. He calls them, by logic and evidence, about the fondling fathers. Okay. Monica, Buffalo, you're there.
Hi, Mr. Bobby. Hi, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. The white supremacist has allowed whites and non-whites. To date, I'm seeing it. It's increasing on the TV, just when I'm out and about. And I think it's causing confusion and problems. Can you give me some insight, Mr. Fuller, on why the white supremacist is allowing this?
Allowing what?
Interracial dating, whites and non-whites, their dating, it has increased?
Everything, according to evidence, that the white supremacists do is to strengthen the system of white supremacy. Everything. And one thing that they are really excellent at, and I want everybody to remember this one, they know how, in a very skillful manner, better than anybody, to take all sides of every argument. So how can they lose? That's why they are not losers. They know how to take every side of every discussion, every argument, and make sense. Oh, yeah. They'll talk like they're against something today, and they will be against it. And then the very next day, they'll say something just the opposite from what they said the day before, and people will buy it. Because they are very skillful at the use of words. And you won't detect it, but they're basically saying the same thing all the time. I want to maintain my power over these dark-skinned people, and I will say whatever it takes to do that. But they won't be aware that that's what I'm doing because they are not as smart as I am. Because I spend full time doing what I do, and they spend full time entertaining each other. That makes them permanent losers under my authority. And that's the white supremacist philosophy, completely.
Boy, you said it right. All right, Monica. Woo! That was powerful. All right, thank you for your call, dear. And I don't have to tell you to be not be a stranger because you're not a stranger. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to New York, and this is my brother right here, Toussaint. He be in the Brooklyn area. Yeah, Queens happening. Come on, Toussaint. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I hope you guys are having a great morning. Yes, sir. I have two immediate quick questions. Mr. Fuller, what would you define as a friend?
Oh, I would have to look in my word guide if I was going to do it according to what I've given a lot of thought to, because that's when I write stuff.
I would love that.
And I've given a lot of thought. But if I remember correctly, and it's in the word guide if you have a copy, just look up friend. And I think a friend is a person who is trying to, as best they can, replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. I think that may not be the definition I gave it, but if I recall correctly, that would be the logical definition. That's what a friend is. See, you know, people say we got personal friendship and all like that. In a world dominated by racism, what's that mafioso saying? It ain't personal. It's business.
Yeah, okay. I have it right here.
Oh, you have it? Okay,
yeah,
I'm not looking at it. I got the book right here in front of me.
Yeah,
but
this is what
sometimes
you said.
it's difficult for me to see.
Yeah, page on page.
What does it say? Page
127. It says this: friend, page 127 of the word guide. Use this word with caution. Use the word associate to apply to any person, white or non-white, with whom you interact with in any manner, in any area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and counter-war. With others, use this word. Ask for a detailed explanation, readily or easily understand, and ask questions. Then you have a question format that they can go by.
Now, that's the definition for friend, the compensatory definition.
Yeah, compensatory definition.
Does it say friendship, too?
Yeah,
that's
okay. On the questions, it says, what exactly is a friend? What exactly are the qualifications for friendship? Is there any way to prove friendship other than by producing justice and correctness between and among all people, all creatures, and all things? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that I might have given it that kind of definition. I knew it was in there. I could have elaborated even more, but I only have so much space in a condensed book. The English language has a whole lot of words, a whole lot of them. In fact, if you're going to have every word in the English language in a book, you're going to need a cart to tote it around. And I've actually seen dictionaries that were just that thick, that you had to have. It was on rollers in libraries. That's the only place I've ever seen one that big. But it's a lot of words in English that are in there. The white supremacists, they put a lot of faith in the English, what is called the English language. Why? Because it has so many words that can mean so many different things to so many people, and you can manipulate them probably better than the words in any other language. There are some languages that I've heard people say who know about languages. They say there are some words, some tribes, for instance, that when they use a certain word, there's no way for that word to be misunderstood. It always means something very exact, and it doesn't mean 4 or 5 other things. The English language, and a lot of people may have noticed that, you can have the same word, and that same word can mean 24 things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why people can say, well, now, in other words, and you hear that expression all the time, and they will say the same thing using different words. And sometimes they will say the same words meaning one thing or meaning a dozen things. And when you have a language like that, boy, can you play tricks with people.
Right.
As every lawyer knows. All right? Every judge knows. Oh, yeah, you can do a whole lot with language when you can take one word, and that word can mean this, it can mean that. You, like the word friend, you can say, oh, yeah, well, he's a friend, but he's not a close friend. Well, what do you mean? You know, what's the difference between a friend and a close friend? Okay. Here we go. Questions, all right? That's why I say ask questions, particularly when people are using that English language. Spanish is kind of loose that way, too, from what I understand, and French and German. They say German is a little more exact, very strict than the English language.
Yes.
That you have a lot of words in German that when it means when it's spoken in German, it means just that one thing. You can't slide around with it. You can't play games with it. It means one thing and nothing else.
And nothing else.
You say German. Yeah. I've heard that German is like that. I don't know.
Okay. Under the question section that you have said to ask questions, you said, and this is important, during the existence of white supremacy, racism, how can a white person, quote, qualify, end of quote, for friendship with a non-white person without speaking and acting effectively to replace white supremacy, racism, with justice that is balanced between people? Can a white supremacist, racist, be a, quote, friend, end of quote, to any person with who is not a white supremacist, racist, and or to any person who is not white? Now, you ask those questions in the question section under friendship.
Right. That's under friendship. You see that in the book, right?
Yeah, that's in the book, right.
Yes. Well, that helps, supposed to help the person, the caller, see, deal with that word friend.
Okay.
Because the word friend is so vague. It means different things to different people.
To different people.
The person says, you know, I have a lot of friends. And then when they start describing them, they say, those are friends? All right. You call those friends? Yeah, I mean, those are my friends. You know, and I stick by my friends. You stick by your friends by doing what you say you're doing. See, it means different things to different people.
Exactly.
And a lot of people will tell you, I don't call that no friend. That might be a friend to you. Heaven forbid, I'll never have a friend like that and don't want one.
I hear you. Hey, Toussaint, what's your second question? Toussaint, are you there?
Is he still there?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is your second question quickly? Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's actually what my second question was going to be. Mr. Fuller actually was addressing it in the book. Can a white person be a friend to a non-white person?
Yeah, that was just answered.
Well, I'll take myself as an example. Maybe. I don't know. But I have no way of knowing in the system of white supremacy. For the simple reason, I don't know who is a racist and who is not. I only suspect that, like I say in the textbook, a person who is classified as white should be suspected of being a racist if he or she is able, that's the key word, to be one. You should be suspected of being one. Suspected by whom? By anybody who is a victim of racism. Now, where's the logic? Because as far as I know, there's no master list that Neely Fuller can go to. You know, in other words, a guy named, I know a white person, say for example, named Charles McGriffin. And I have his ID and his background and all like that, and what his current address is. In other words, I got the correct Charles McGriffin. And I want to find out if Mr. McGriffin is a racist or not. Now, whom do I ask? Well, according to the code, I ask, is he classified as white? Charles McGriffin. And according to the code, if he's classified as white in a racist government, which is the only government on the planet worthy of being called a government, the system of white supremacy, that's the name of the government. If he's classified as white in that government of white supremacy, and he's white, Neely Fuller has a duty to suspect that Mr. Charles McGriffin is a racist. I can't call him that because I don't know. But I'm supposed to, it's my duty, to suspect that he is one if he's able to be one. Why? Because I have no master list of who is a racist and who is not in a system of government where somebody has got to be a racist, but who that somebody is, I don't know. Unless, now, Mr. McGriffin says this, according to the code, if he says he's a racist, then I can say he's no longer a suspect. He has admitted that that's what he is. Mm-hmm. Mr. McGriffin knows that he's a racist, and he says that he's a racist. But a lot of white people are racist, but they're not going to say that that's what they are. So I have no way of proving that a white person is a racist in a system of racism where I am the victim of racism. Any black person, according to the code, no black person can prove that a white person is a racist in the system of white supremacy. If you don't believe it, try it.
Try it. Okay.
You better go get another white person to verify it. Your suspicion. Or you're hanging out there alone. Go back to that word. Now, you really are alone now. You charge a white person with being a racist and you're black, and you don't have a white person to back you up, try that for size and see if it works. It doesn't work in the system of white supremacy. According to what? Neely Fuller? No. According to logic.
Logic, right.
Let's just suspect right now. Let's work with that. Suppose Neely Fuller points out a white person as being a racist, and Neely Fuller doesn't get a white person to back Neely Fuller up. That means I am alone out there to prove it. Now, that's not going to happen. There's no way that I can prove it. All that white person got to do is say, I'm not a racist. Neely Fuller, are you saying that I'm a racist with your black self? And I'm a white person in the system of white supremacy? And you think that you can prove that I'm a racist? Try it. Try it. Just try it. Because when you charge me with being a racist, and you ain't got a white person to back you up, it ain't going to happen in the system of white supremacy, Neely Fuller. It ain't going to happen.
Ain't going to happen.
Now, if you think it's going to happen, you just try it. And you know any other black person that can do it, that has done it, I want to know about it. And there's no record of that ever happened anywhere.
Okay. All right, Toussaint. Thank you. And you don't have to be a stranger either. Before I go to Dre, could you, Mr. Fuller, substitute? Oh, by the way, speaking about substitution, don't forget, especially for those who may be new, go to producejustice.com to get the books that Mr. Fuller has written. They are there. They are available. I understand from Robert that not only do we have the supplies, but the sales are just phenomenal. I'll just put it that word. I don't even know how don't spell that real good. But anyway, they are really up there. So that's good. Somebody's listening. And thank you, 888. That'd be Rita in D.C. that is really giving those books out. Thank you, dear. Appreciate that. Mr. Fuller, before I go to Dre, how about substituting associate for friend? Would that be okay?
Associate, yes. You can say, because association means you just have an association. You have an association, you're associated with the clerk in the grocery store.
Okay.
You don't know the clerk's name.
Cool.
But you're associated
cool.
because you're making contact. Association just means you're making contact.
Okay.
But just because you're making contact with a person doesn't say that person is a friend.
Okay.
And it doesn't say that person is a foe. Really.
Yeah,
just an associate. You associate with the taxi driver.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're in the taxi driver's taxi.
Okay. Just
so
pick it up.
Association. But if someone asks you, are you and this taxi driver friends? You say, well, no, I don't even know the guy or nothing. I called a taxi and he came. So, that's associate.
Okay. Spot on constructive actions items. Okay. And speaking about spot on, let's do this. Oklahoma. Get ready, Dre. Dre, wait a minute. Okay. Dre, you are on today, Dre. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. How y'all doing this morning?
Good morning, Dre.
Still learning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My question is, Mr. Fuller, I feel like you have a lot of great ideas and a lot of conflict resolution skills. So therefore, that's why I'm calling in so much. My question this morning is, Mr. Fuller, it seems like every day we see on the news, young black people killing each other. And yesterday, another rapper, I don't really listen to rap that much, but I seen on the news another rapper got killed. My question is, how can we be more like, the great Neely Fuller Jr.? How did you, stay on a positive trajectory, during your young life? How did you stay out of, steer away from trouble? How did you navigate trouble growing up as a young black man? It's a lot of young black men out here who, could use that message from an older gent such as yourself, Mr. Fuller, myself included. I'm 26, so I just want to know, how can we navigate, these traps that the system of white supremacy has set up for us, and how can we, stay away from violence and trouble, things of that nature?
By trying to stay away from violence. Fear, mostly. People say, a lot of black males particularly say, I ain't scared of nothing. I came up being afraid of everything. Oh, yes. I recognize there's a lot of things to be afraid of. So I recognize that and was willing to admit it, first of all, to myself. I don't want to be in fearful situations. I want to get away from whatever is causing fear in me. And that's whether it's in the form of a person or an animal or a situation, where you have to get a fire or whatever. I was that type of person. And, a lot of people say, I ain't scared of nothing. Well, see, now I'm afraid of you if you're hanging around me. And that's the way I was, for the most part, because I learned that by people deliberately getting in fearful situations to show how brave they are and all like that. No, I'm the first one out of there. Oh, this situation looks like it's going south. This is not going to end well. See, I picked that up. 5 guys in a car and 2 of them got guns. Talking about, Fuller, get in. We're going to take care of a beef. No. I will talk to you some other time. Y'all tell me all about it and how it worked out sometime in the future. Because I ain't getting in that car. Period. Okay? And they knew that about Fuller. Ain't no point in asking Fuller, man. He ain't Fuller ain't going along with that. No. Why? I don't need that.
Don't need that.
What I need to be running towards a mess for? When I know it's going to be a mess. They're going to have a party over so-and-so's house. So-and-so with his rep. And
Mr.
with all
Fuller,
the things that happen every time he has one. No, I will not be there, not ever.
Mr. Fuller, let me
Hmm?
close out the first hour and then pick you right back up. You have been listening to the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we thank you for listening to that first hour. If you have to go, hopefully you will tune in next week. But if you're going to stay there, because we have a fresh hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller that will commence in about 10 seconds. For those of you who have to go, thank you, and we'll hope to see you next week. The countdown is in for now. All right, welcome, and thank you for welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. To get in contact with the show, all you have to do, call this number, is 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or VGQ. Make it short, and let Mr. Fuller respond to that. If you'd like, you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Or if you would like this, you can get into the chat room, and they're ready and willing and waiting for you. Go to blogtalkradio.com, click on where it says programs. Then you want the Produced Justice Show, click on that bad boy, and then that chat room becomes available to you. It's available to you, and you can get in there and, trust me, be codified. If you're not, they will teach you how to be codified. Yeah. New time, first-time callers, listen. Robert and I believe Moon Pie, which, I need to hear from him, Sharon, and whoever else is involved in this, have created a platform where all you have to do is call in, and they fixed it so you can be heard. So if you're a first-time caller, tell the call screener that, and you will be heard. And one of the good features I like about this format that they've produced is that they will inform me of the last caller so that we try not to go over time. So I like that. Yeah, keep on doing that one. Yeah, that's good, so we don't go over time there. Okay, so get in the chat, and we'll go. And don't forget to give your name to the call screeners there. Okay, back with Mr. Fuller. He talked about being alone. Alone. If you didn't hear the first hour, go back and hear the tapes. And speaking about going back, Fuller can be heard at ProduceJustice.com or on ProduceJustice.com when he was on the Carl Nelson Show last week. So if you missed it, you can pick it up. Pick that bad boy up. That's also on the ProduceJustice.com website. So make sure you do that. Books are there also. Okay, Mr. Fuller, you were talking about, there's certain things you're not going to do, and you're not going to get in no car and do this for somebody that's getting ready to do some mischief. Go ahead, continue, please.
No, well, that's all the codification is about. 2 words that I repeat on this program all the time. It's also repeated in the book many times. Probably not enough. Just 2 words. Constructive results. Every move that you make, every breath that you take, you should have one thing in mind. If you're a person on this planet, am I going to make this move? And if I make this move, is it guaranteed to have a constructive result? That's all that I'm interested in. And that answers a whole lot of people's questions on this program, or rather it should, if you stop and think about what those 2 words should mean to you every time you take a breath on this place called planet Earth. From now on, that will answer a lot of questions. Is this going to produce a constructive result? You can listen to people, and you should listen to everybody who's talking, because everybody has something to say, and you never know where you might learn something that you need to know. So let people talk. But after they get through talking for 40 days and 40 nights, you can just ask one question. Everything that you said, sir or ma'am, is it going to produce a constructive result? All constructive results. I'm not interested in anything except constructive results. You're asking me to take a drink of this new drink that just came out. You're asking me to smoke something that just came out. You're asking me to go to a place that I've never been before. I want to know one thing before I make a move of any kind. Is it going to produce a constructive result? And if it is, describe it. What that constructive result is going to be. See, you got a lot of questions after that first question. But the main question, the first question and the last question is going to be associated with those two words, constructive results. Homeboy or teacher or coach or some, what you might call, a lot of people call my elders. There's a whole lot of elders who are locked up who should be. Why? They're not producing constructive results. So that's no qualification for constructive results, just being here a long time. Being here a long time doing what? Well, I started doing stuff when I was 16. And so ever since I was 21, I've been doing time. Well, how long was that ago? Well, I've been here since I was 21 then. I've been here since 1950. Well, my goodness. Here where? Here in this maximum security cell. Well, now, what were you doing to do all of that? And did it produce a constructive result? No, now that I look back on it, well, yeah, you had plenty of time to think about looking back on it. But a lot of us are heading that way and doing it with glee. Giggling while we're doing it, thinking we're really into something.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Moving right along. From the Gmail action here. This is Miss Anonymous. She said, this is the question. I see that hip-hop is accepting gay rappers, and she mentions two, which I don't feel comfortable in saying because I don't know if they are or not. But anyway, it says, Mr. Fuller, do you think that in order for a black man to have a career in hip-hop/rap, does he have to be gay? However, I do remember you said in the past that Hollywood is making black men sound feminine when they are singing.
Well, it wasn't Hollywood, it's the white supremacists. They accept that. See, an effeminate black male is considered by the white supremacists to be an asset to the system of white supremacy and or to be of no harm to the system of white supremacy, regardless of how he may sound or may act and all like that. Once the white supremacists perceive that a black male is looking for a sexual partner in the form of a male person, the white supremacists concluded years ago, that's not no threat, that's an amusement. That's all that person is. That person that is called quote-unquote gay, homosexual, or scattersexual, or artificial sexual, or whatever you want to call it, that individual, graffiti sexual, something, a creature in the form of a male who is attracted sexually to another male without having the equipment that usual sexual, a real sexual, meaning male with female, has. Mm-hmm. So the white supremacists evaluated that years ago and said, we can always use them in any capacity, and we'll always pay them well, too. We'll give them benefits that nobody else can get. We'll have a network set up. Now, they won't be as privileged in all things as a white supremacist, but they will be given a lot of material comforts. You can give them. You can drench them with it. Money and all like that, as long as they are that type of influence and they're recruiting others into that type of influence. Well, the white supremacists, according to the evidence, are all on board with that. You don't see white supremacists condemning what you call, quote-unquote, homosexuality among non-white people. Not the white supremacists who believe in this being direct in being white supremacists. They don't condemn that. They just go silent on it for the most part. They don't say anything one way or another because they say that takes care of itself. We don't have to be concerned about them. I mean, regardless, even if they're firebrands and they say a whole lot against racism and whatnot, we don't pay no attention to them. I mean, because they're nothing but playthings. They're amusements. Like I said in the textbook, what does the white supremacist see when they see a black person who is what you call gay? They see an amusement. That's an amusement. Like an amusement park, like Disneyland, like Fairyland. Even sometimes call themselves fairies. So, we call ourselves fairies when we're like that. That's what the white supremacists say. But we definitely don't say that we want most white males to be that way. We want them to be able to be that way because we are gods. And a god can be anything. Like Caligula back in ancient Roman history and whatnot. When you're a god, you can be a male, you can be a female, you can be a hog, you can be Neptune, the god of the sea. When you're a god, you're a god. You can be everything, okay? But if you're black, you can just be whatever a white supremacist wants you to be, to serve white supremacy. And as long as it serves white supremacy, we'll rubber stamp it. If there's anything that's going to go against white supremacy, you're in trouble, black boy. You're in big trouble. Black girl, you are in big trouble. If you're serious about going against white supremacy, you are, by definition, a troublemaker. And we know how to handle troublemakers of all kinds.
All righty. Let's move to Texas. And I believe we're going to get Deborah. Deborah, get ready. Get ready. Let me get you in here. Let's see. Got you in here, I think. Deborah, we got you? Yeah. Okay,
good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning,
I have a question about the refinement stage of white supremacy. Are we in a constant state of refinement? Is it perpetual?
Well, that's the state that the white supremacists want to be in, and that's an individual thing. Say, like, for example, on a job, you'll have a white supremacist who is super refined, who all the black people will say, now, Miss Allen, who is white, Oh, she's okay. I mean, she's one of the few that that she's straight up with you and all like that. But she is so refined at practicing white supremacy that all the black people doesn't know how she goes about practicing white supremacy. That's the refined white supremacist. Now, the unrefined white supremacist is just that, right in your face. I never did like none of you people, and I never will. So don't come to me asking me for nothing, because all you're going to get from me is a whole lot of something you don't want. Now, that's the unrefined racist. That's the kind, with the swastikas on, insignia on the back of the hand and all that, okay? They're straight up, right in your face, okay? Now, these are the ones that most black people are familiar with. Most black people are not aware of the existence of the refined white supremacists. They're the ones you never suspect. They're so nice. Man, N-I-C-E. That's the way you really, if you're black and you really been fooled, that word nice, it does it every time. Oh, no, she's one of the nice ones. Oh, no, she's not like the other white people here. Oh, you're talking about Miss Greenwood. No, not her. No, she doesn't have a racist bone in her body. Now, what does the white supremacist, what does the code say when somebody tells you that? You say, yeah, that's what you say about Miss Greenwood. Say, well, what else do you know about her? Do you know her to be a racist? No, but I know I'm supposed to suspect her of being one until she proves it to me. She's got to prove that to me, not to other black people, that she's not a racist. That's the way that works. That's why the code is called the United Independent Code. You don't give up your independence when it comes to evaluating any situation. You never go by what another black person says, another fellow victim, another prisoner of war, of racism, or about racism. You don't go by what Neely says or nobody else. You go by what conclusions you come to, and nothing else. And those conclusions should come by through logic, counter-racist science. That's what you follow all the time. And I got to emphasize that again and again and again.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people on this program call in on almost every program, the Carl Nelson Show and all that, on WL, which I'm on every now and then. And they say, well, Mr. Fuller, what are we going to do when you are not available or when you are dead? And I keep saying the United Independent System is about you being united as a person, not with Fuller. You don't unite with Fuller. What does that mean, uniting with Fuller? Fuller's a fellow prisoner. He's not exempt from white supremacy. He's under the system of white supremacy. Why would you follow somebody who's under white supremacy? That's not logical. You follow logic. That's what takes you out from under white supremacy. Logic came with the universe, cause and effect. You do certain things and you don't do certain things. That's what you call a code. A code is logical. It has nothing to do with who does it. Whoever does the logical thing is going to be a winner. It's going to solve problems. That's what black people have to tap into and stop being fascinated by people. Fuller makes mistakes. If you follow in Fuller, you're going to make the same mistakes that Fuller makes. This is one of the hardest things for black people to understand. Don't you follow anybody anywhere. Jim Jones or anywhere else. I don't care how it looks on the surface.
Yes.
Why? Because there's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. Get that cemented in your mind. There's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. So when you follow a person that makes mistakes, you're going to make mistakes. That's a guarantee. So black people worldwide need to get out of that immediately, as of this minute.
As of this minute, yes, sir.
Yeah, get out of this thing of you got to follow somebody.
Okay.
I mean, you don't follow no person, none, zero. You follow the logic that the Creator gives you. It's assigned to every person. It's available to every person. Logic meaning cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Non-constructive results, constructive results. Always go by the constructive result that anybody is doing. Look for the constructive results. Like people are talking about, for example, what? Right now, talking about what? All over the news. The Queen. All right? Now, a black person, a victim of white supremacy, has one question of her so-called reign, and they said she had one, 70 years plus. What was the constructive result? How about that as a question? Because all questions have answers. It's just a matter of finding the correct answer, because an incorrect answer is not an answer to a question.
Yes.
All answers to a question are correct. An incorrect answer is not an answer to the question. That's a law of the universe, not Fuller's law, not the Queen's law, not any person's law. That's a law made by whatever created you.
Okay.
So why not tap into that as your guide? Ask yourself every day, what created you? Okay, if you got a question, ask that question of yourself, which will translate into asking that same question of whatever created you. Because it ain't going to get no better than that. I can pull atop that. I can pull atop anything that created you. You following Fuller. That's dumb.
All righty.
Don't follow Fuller nowhere. You can listen to him and talk to him, but that's all. And then you come to your own conclusions.
Yes, sir.
And that's power. See, when you give yourself power, you ain't leaning on nothing except what created you. And how do you get that power? Tap in to what created you. And how do you do that? According to the code. Just ask questions. Because all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. And you can ask, if you want to answer to the question about the Ku Klux Klan, who's the best person to ask a question about the Ku Klux Klan or a member of the Ku Klux Klan?
Okay. All right, Delbert, thank you for that. And let me say this. Roland R. Jr., listen, I text you back that question and your VGQ that I have on my screen. Go ahead and call that number, which is 516-453-9921. We have a couple of lines open, so you can call and get right in there, and then you could ask Mr. Fuller that question and share your VGQ like you have on my screen. How about that? Go ahead, Mr. Rowland. I did make that announcement earlier that the chat is basically for the chat, and if you have a question, then you need to call in to that number, and then Fuller will answer or address your question as best as he can. Okay. Considering this, Mr. Fuller, this is from the Gmail. It says, all the things that you, Mr. Fuller, have been warning non-white people to stop doing is now being forcibly stopped by these viruses. First, it was staying away from each other. That was stopped by COVID-19. Now it's the hugging and high-fiving that is being stopped by monkeypox. Mr. Fuller, have you noticed this pattern also?
Sure. And it's a compensatory way of the world. Compensatory meaning making up for what's missing. See, when people are doing the incorrect thing, there are things that happen. Floods, fires. Never had this much water before. We never had fires like this before. It's burning up everything. I just built this house. I mean, I saved and planned, and I got this huge estate sitting on top of that mountain. But all around that mountain, there's a whole lot of greenery. And then with the change of the seasons, that greenery became brown, and then orange, and then it's kind of faded away. And the leaves began to fall, but not all of them. Just enough left for somebody to strike a match. And now, miles and miles and miles and miles of beautiful houses. Now, you don't gloat about that when that happens to people and it's not happening to you, because you don't know when you'll be next. But these are lessons, okay? One thing, piling up stuff. I think it's an old biblical saying about beware of piling up stuff. I don't know exactly what the words were. I vaguely remember them, about accumulating a whole lot of stuff. You might have to be running down the highway trying to save it and trying to push that stuff ahead of you that you have accumulated to keep it from what? Being destroyed. Because it's everything you have worked for. Well, maybe you shouldn't have been working for all that in the first place. And for black people who have very little stuff anyway, you still have too much stuff when it comes to what? Not fires and floods, when it comes to moving. Because the white supremacists, by the time you get enough stuff accumulated, the white supremacists will come along on just one day and say, I want all of you all out of here by next month. Because eminent domain is going to take this entire area. Now, you can fight it in court if you want to, but I'll be sitting there waiting on you. I know how much money you got because I pay you. And after I exhaust your funds, you're still going to have to move. So knowing this, see, like I'm saying, like the caller's saying, you just kind of think ahead. See, the white supremacists, by the time we get this stuff halfway paid for, all this stuff that we're going to be showing off to our friends, we're going to have to move. Because they're going to run a highway through here. But we don't know that. That was planned 50 years ago, before you ever built a house in that area at all. They planned 50 years ago. We're going to put the black people here, and just about the time they get their place paid for, we're going to put a highway through here and reduce the value on that house that they spent their entire existence trying to accumulate.
Yes.
That's how they think.
Mr. Fuller.
And that's why they're efficient at what they do.
Yeah. Mr. Fuller, that's cold. I mean, that's true, because I looked under the 1952 Highway Act. I think it might have been under Eisenhower. I'm not sure. But what you stated was true, because I noticed that predominantly so-called ghetto areas, that 1952 Highway Act allowed the so-called government to do what you just said that they would do, and they went right through your area. Check it out. So you're telling the truth there. You're telling the truth there.
Lots of people have experienced it.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of people. See, so You know, you don't have to preach that to a whole lot of people who've been through it. Some people have been through it twice.
No, but critical people who believe in critical race theory, they don't want you to know, because they banned these books, don't want you to know what happened. But what you said has already happened. This is what they did.
It's going to happen again. I mean, they say black people don't pay attention to the long run and nothing. They're very short-sighted people. That's how they got in captivity in the first place. They don't think ahead. That's why so many of them are crowded into the jails. We build the jails 50 years ahead of time because we know when they're in the cradle, that's where they're going to be.
And develop the prison industrial complex. Listen, we've got to take a break. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. To get in contact with the show, the last 29 minutes, just call this number, 516-453-9921. And when you do that, make sure that you press the number 1 button so that you can get in line for your question or VGQ. Quick comment. Hey, Randy, I'm looking for you. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And it won't be read today, but just do it, and I will tell you that I got it, and we can go on from there. But you can also get into the to the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, click on where it says Programs, the Produce Justice Show. Get on that bad boy, and then the chat room icon will come up. You press that button, and you are in there, and they are waiting for you. They're waiting for you. So make sure you do that before we have to close out the shows. And don't forget, when you do call, like the person called in area code 763, make sure you give the call screener your name. Will from Atlanta, I'm going to get to you. But right now, we're getting ready to go to Marcus. Listen, Mr. Fuller drops facts, so you could back it up, or evidence. You could back it up. There's no lies here. There's no confusions here. No. Just like that 1952 Highway Act. Check it out. Matter of fact, don't take a word that's being said. Check it out for yourself. You'll be glad you did. Marcus, man, hadn't heard from you a long time out on the left coast. Do your thing and hope you've been safe, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Yes, sir. I've been safe. I've been dealing with some stuff. Unfortunately, my father has been diagnosed with cancer, so we've been dealing with that on our side. But let me go ahead and get to my question.
Yes, sir.
Real quick. Let me find it. Here it is. Right here it is. Mr. Fuller, in the system of white supremacy, does the image of black people perpetuate violence, or is our perpetration of violence a reaction to the system of white supremacy?
Does it perpetuate violence? Is that the first question?
Yes, the first part of the question is, in the system of white supremacy, does the image of black people perpetuate violence?
Yes. But black people, according to the white supremacists, particularly the black male, is supposed to be like an animal. All right? Like they said in Godfather 1. Ain't nothing but animals anyway. Let them lose their souls. We'll sell them the drugs. We're not selling it to our people. However, that didn't work out too well. I mean, so if you put out poison, you're going to get some of the poison on you. That's the law of compensation. Okay. Now, in answer to that first part of the question, yes, the white supremacists want everything unfortunate to happen to black people. So they plan it in advance. Everything that's non-constructive associated with black people. Have young black people all want to be involved in something that's going to turn out to be a whole lot of nothing except something that's non-constructive, and get them involved over their heads in it, and have them looking for it, looking forward to it. This is much mess as you can get into. And black people have been taught systematically by the white supremacists to love what to use what you call, quote, unquote, the old folks saying, mess. If it's good and messy, non-constructive, no way in the world it's going to help anybody to do anything that makes sense. Bring it on by the truckload and involve black people in it over their heads, and they will love it because we have trained them that way. And that's the way we've been. We are their product. See, Neely Fuller is a child of the system of white supremacists. And he's never been anything but that. So the white supremacists train black people the way that they say black people should be trained as black people. And that means something that's going to turn out to be a whole lot of nothing except misery. Get black people to love misery and to actually embrace it. Can't get enough of it. Want to do everything that's going to make them miserable. Not today, but in a few hours from now. And train them to think that way. Want to be involved in something that's absolutely miserable. And call it fun. Call it progress. Call it our black thing, when it really isn't our black thing. We've been trained by the white supremacists, and they made it their white thing. What black people brag about being, it's a black thing you wouldn't understand. It ain't nothing about the white supremacists that the black people, ain't nothing about black people that the white supremacists don't understand. Nothing. We're not no mystery to them. They are a mystery to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Makes me think why we're victims. What's your second question, Marcus?
I think he answered the second question in the first question. It is reading, or is our perpetration of violence our reaction to the system of white supremacy? I think he answered that question. Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Sounds like victimization to me, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir. That's all we are. That's our label. We like to call ourselves by a whole bunch of things. Call ourselves kings, queens. We're not king over nothing. Not a queen over nothing. These are just labels. We got more labels than anybody in the world, but all of them add up to one label, the N-word. All of them. All the labels we got add up to that. In what? In the system of white supremacy.
In the system of white supremacy. Okay.
Yeah, we got one label, and that one label fits.
Yes,
That's
sir.
not a lie. That's not something made up. That's who we are.
All right.
Because that's what the N-word is. It means you're a victim of white supremacy. That's all it means.
That's all it means. Okay. We're going to travel down to the dirty South, and we're going to stop at the ATL, and Will comes to the platform. Will, you step to the mic. You're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
What is your question, Will?
My question is, where do you draw the line between racial showcasing, or how do you know if a black person is like temporarily manipulating a system of white supremacy? Because, like me, for example, I make what you would consider, I guess, a lot of money, and I went up against like some unrefined white supremacists, and I see that the refined white supremacists are backing me up against them, which I don't trust. But it's kind of confusing. I want to know, like, where do you draw that line?
Oh, it's really no lines. I mean, these are just categories that I use. They're just words that basically mean the same thing. Just another way of being a victim of white supremacy, whether you're being showcased or what. You know, like they got all kinds of names and titles for us, but it all adds up to mean what? Victim of white supremacy. That's who we are, if you want to make it explicit. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're being showcased. See, these are just words that I came up with. Like they'll take a victim of white supremacy and they'll showcase, Neely Fuller. They'll just say, well, hey, get up on the stage, Fuller. I'm going to showcase you. Showcasing meaning what? I'm going to have other black people want to be like you, but I'm going to be pulling all the strings that make you what you are, because I am your master, okay? But I'll have other black people want to imitate you. Why? Because I have made you successful in making money, say if I had money, and the white supremacists want me to be showcased as a person who has money. I have money. The white supremacists have control of all of the money on this planet that's worth being called money. Tomorrow or today or an hour from now, they can say all the money that you call money is now null and void. That's if the white supremacists make that decision. Mm-hmm. And anybody who has a purple rock, that will be $1 billion. Why? Because I said so. See, a lot of black people say, all the white man want, all they want, they just want money. That's all they want. What do you mean they want money? They want money that they're going to get from who? They got money when they got me. See, when you control people, you control money, because you're controlling everything that the people have. So you can make anything money, including people. You can buy and sell people. I mean, trade them and whatnot. Get up there, boy. Get up there on that block.
Chattel slavery.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, now who will bid such and such, that's why they like for black people to be involved in different kind of games with checkers and all of that.
That's all it is.
I mean, because we are part of the game, all right? Their game. We don't have a game of our own, whether we're playing checkers around there in the alley or whether we're shooting dice. They're the master of all games, and they're the master of us.
Yeah, just like they took over. Thank you, Will. Just like they took over. You remember this, Mr. Fuller, coming up. They took out. There used to be a game called the Numbers, and they took it over and called it the Lottery. You have numbers around.
Yeah, and they'll make it legal or illegal depending on how they feel.
Yeah.
Then we say, well, gambling is illegal. Well, if the white supremacists say, oh, you're talking about 2 hours ago. Because 2 hours ago I said that it was illegal. Now that I want to do it a different way and go about doing it, I'm saying it's legal.
Huh.
And so, hey, come to Sin City and you can do all of it you want. Why?
You want.
Because I'll be there waiting on you. And I will say when it's illegal. It'll be legal in this place and illegal in another place. Why? Because I said so.
That's exactly
See,
what
the white supremacists, they got an explanation for everything, and that one explanation fits everything. Because this is what they tell us to our face every day. Because I said so, Negro.
Right. Because if people don't think it's
true,
the
coffee.
If people don't think what you said is true, look what they did with marijuana. Remember, you used to go to jail for that, and now they made it what? Illegal.
Yeah, there you go. Why? Because I said so.
Because I said so.
Now, do you know anybody big enough and bad enough to overrule me with your Negro self? Now, get off behind that desk and get in that ditch. See if you understand that.
Let's go out to Minnesota, where there's great joy out in Minnesota, and we're speaking to Joy. Go ahead, Joy. Joy? Okay. No Joy? No Joy in Minnesota? Okay. All right. Well, how about this? How about in New York? I know there's some joy in New York, but the joy is Darnell. Darnell. Man, I'm glad you called back. Go ahead. Do your thing. Let me see here. It must be me because I'm getting a bunch of zeros up here, Robert, when I'm pressing the button here. 0 for Darnell. And I got your number, Darnell, but I'm getting zeros there. Joy, I'm getting zeros on you, too. Also. Okay. I don't know what's going on. A little malfunction. I hope the usual suspects are not in charge of that action, but that's all right. We'll continue on. Can't stop that. All right, Mr. Fuller, how about this? From the Gmail. And if we can get Joy and him back, that'd be great, too. But anyway, from Gmail, it says, Mr. Fuller, how do you prevent yourself from becoming irritated or annoyed by fellow victims who try to use your program to promote their own ideas?
To promote their own what?
Ideas.
They shouldn't do it. Why? Because that's not the truth. See, everything about the code is just the opposite from what the white supremacists are doing. They believe in falsehood. They believe in doing things that shouldn't be done. And so we don't want to duplicate what the white supremacists do. We might as well keep what they're doing, have the same type of system. No, we're supposed to be universal man, universal woman, something that never existed. All right, that's where we're supposed to be headed. People who are completely different. And completely different will automatically mean truthful people. People that believe in the truth. I mean, tell it like it is. I mean, making that slogan something real, okay? And no other way. So if I'm riding around in somebody else's car and claiming that it's mine, that's not truthful. I mean, you can say it. You're not losing anything. I don't lose anything when I quote George Washington. You say, well, I mean, you need to put your own name on that. Well, George Washington is the one that said it, but it sounds good, so you need to put your name on that. No. I mean, have my own brand. You can have your own brand, be it ever so humble. It may not get the attention of everybody else. I don't get the attention of everybody. In fact, I get very little attention compared to a whole bunch of people who get plenty of attention. So if attention is what you want, don't copy Neely Fuller. Copy, I mean, the latest person who has written a song that's, filling up stadiums. That's the way you want to go if you're looking for attention. But, hey, it's, that's kind of sad. If you going around taking Neely Fuller's material and slapping your name on it, I mean, that's not only untruthful, that's lazy. You don't want to get no lazier than they already are, okay? I'm trying to keep them being lazy. No, I'm trying to do something on my own. You can do something on your own. Counter racism is wide open. You don't have to copy nothing that Neely Fuller does. Just do some thinking, because that field is not crowded. People who are actively trying to do something about racism, all of us are people, every last one of us, because why? Racism is still here and well-grounded. So there's plenty of room for everybody, for you to plow new ground. That's how you do it. Try to do something different from what everybody else is doing, including Neely Fuller. If it has what? A more constructive result. And that means problem solving of any kind. It's more problems on this planet right now of every kind, in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You've got oceans of problems in each one of those areas of activity. I mean, there's oceans of problems to work on. So you don't have to copy Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller is just another feeble worker trying to solve problems, and not, so far, being, according to the standards that it takes, nowhere close. Neely Fuller is nowhere close. So you can run way ahead of Neely Fuller because that field is wide open. It is not crowded. That you have to penny pinch off of Neely Fuller. Why do that? I mean, you're not helping. Try to come up with something that Neely Fuller never thought of. You can do that if you set your mind to it. I do it. I try to think of things that other people don't think about at all. I mean, I'll think about what they're doing, and I'll say, well, maybe I can come up with something to do it or to say it that will be an improvement. But I will, in doing that, I will say, now this is an improvement over what Thomas Paine said, like I did with the flag pledge, and like I do with a lot of stuff. I've written a book about it. This is supposed to be an improvement over other books, but I don't discredit or take stuff from other people. And when I do, I say who I took it from. I quote George Washington. I quote John Steinbeck, Jack London. I'll use something that Moses said, but I will say that Moses said it. I will say I went up on a mountain and came down with this, the Ten Commandments. Why would I do that? And not do it just because I figure somebody might not find it out. No, I do it because why would I take the Ten Commandments that Moses, they say that Moses said up on the mountain and came down from the mountain and say, these are the Ten Commandments. It was a man named Moses, all right, back in history, according to some people. And they say he wrote it. Well, why would Neely Fuller come along and say, no, he didn't write that. This is mine. I wrote that. And I didn't. Why would I do that? Unless I just like to spread things that are not true. And then charge the white supremacists with being untruthful. And I'm being untruthful. That's not an improvement, folks. So if you're doing it, stop doing it. If you're quoting Franklin Delano Roosevelt, quote Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Don't say that Emerson said it when Emerson said no such thing. Why contribute to that kind of confusion? Ask yourself that. Why are you doing that? You got the answer because you are doing it. So the code says stop doing it. If you're driving the bus, don't say somebody else drove the bus. Say, I drove the bus from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh. Don't say that Charles did it. My name ain't Charles. My name is Everett. And I drove the bus. Why am I saying I drove the bus from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh? Because I drove the bus from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh this morning. It wasn't Charles. It was me. Why are you saying that? Because it's the truth. Nothing incorrect about that. That doesn't take anything away from you or give anything to the other person. You're just telling the truth. And that'll help black people when we're truth tellers more than anything that you can start off with. Because the white supremacists believe in lying more than anybody. And why copy them? ProduceJustice.com. That's not just. Hello. Is anybody there?
Mr. Fuller?
Is anybody there? Hello.
Mr. Fuller?
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby was disconnected temporarily, so we'll go to Darnell.
So
we'll go to Darnell.
Did my voice go out over the air? Because I can't remember exactly what I said.
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead,
Hello?
Darnell. Ask your question. Ask your question, Darnell.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but evidently I was off the air for some time, about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, it just dropped.
I hope that the rest of the audience heard me, because we're just about out of time.
Yeah, you came through.
Did you hear me?
Yes, we heard you, Mr. Fuller.
And did all the other listeners hear me?
I can't verify that.
Yes, sir, we heard you loud and clear.
I'm saying that all of the other listeners worldwide hear me.
Yes, you were broadcast worldwide. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought I was off the air for about 5 minutes.
No, sir. Go ahead, Darnell.
Go to producejustice.com and try to get the textbook if you don't already have it. And these are just some ideas. Like I said, don't follow Neely Fuller. And don't copy Neely Fuller and say that it's you who originated what Neely Fuller said. If you use the flag pledge, the compensatory universal flag pledge, say where you got it. That's the truth. I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way the flag relates to me. I never heard anybody say that before. I made that up myself.
Yes.
And
Mr.
when
Fuller,
people repeat it, they should say where they got it from, because that's the truth. That's not building Neely Fuller up or tearing him down, or building yourself up or tearing yourself down. That's just telling the truth.
That's just telling the truth. People in the chat room said that they did hear you, so you did not go off the air for 5 minutes or whatever it was. I just got a text right here. They did hear what you had to say.
All right.
Okay.
Sir.
All right. Darnell, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Wait a minute. Are you there? Okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
Mr. Fuller, according to the code, what makes having a constructive code beneficial?
What makes what?
White supremacy. Having a constructive code beneficial. What's the benefit of it?
Because I've said it many times, I'll say it again. What is a code for? Efficiency, that's all. Coming up with the most constructive result. That's what a code is for. Every time you do it, it works. That's why you have a barcode at the grocery store. They found out from experience that you move the groceries faster. You get through the grocery line faster. There once was a time when the clerk at the grocery store had to write everything down. You had a slip, and the clerk had to calculate, do all the calculations, not what you call swipe, something across something that would register as a code. That's efficient. They found out that was efficient. An electrical code. When an electrician says, now this house is up to code standards. So when you turn on the lights anywhere in this house, you're going to get light. You turn this switch, all you got to do is flip it up. And these 6 rooms will automatically light up. This is going to happen every time. Why? Because I checked all the wiring and all the switches, and the way it will work according to code, every time you do it, it will work. No matter how many times you do it, it's going to work, and it's going to work the same way every time. You're going to get the most constructive result. All 6 rooms are going to be lit, every bulb in them. Why? Mm-hmm. Because it's up to code standards. Plumbing, same way. Driving a car, same way. That engine has a code. Otherwise, The wiring is all there. The battery is there. Everything is in place. The gasoline is there. If it's up to code, the car will move. If it's not up to code, the car won't.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Darnell. Last call coming up right here. Monica, you're the last caller of the program. So what is your question for Mr. Fuller? Nicole, you're the last call. Got you on here. Okay. Well, I can't get you on here, so you're not. Maybe it's this system. I don't know. Mr. Fuller, I think we're probably going to have to end this show there, but thank you for all the callers. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for your questions and everything. Thank all the staff that has been there. So let's cue that music so we can end this show. Mr. Fuller, are you there? There we go. All righty. Well, thank you again, Mr. Fuller. Again, thank you all the callers. And we hope to see you next week. Don't forget to get all the books by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Last word for you, Mr. Fuller.
Producejustice.com. That's the best. That's the best thing I can say right now. Try to get some of the work, some of the book, and a lot of the questions that people have in their minds to ask me are already in the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Sure.